A 67-year-old man from Georgia named Michael Sibley decided to teach America the most ironic lesson ever. Addicting Info reports, quote, he was arrested last weekend for planting an explosive device in an Atlanta area public park last November, a stunt he performed to bring awareness to Islamic terrorism and increased Islamist fears. They continue, Michael Sibley, who describes himself as a conservative patriot, had filled the backpack with 2 pipe bombs, a Koran, and a list of targets, which included hospitals, schools, and a Jewish center. The backpack was discovered on November 4th by a mother and daughter who notified officials after stumbling across it while they were hiking at the park. Last weekend, the FBI finally arrested Sibley. Sibley's reasoning behind planting the backpack was to strike fear into the public and to show people what terrorist strikes could happen anywhere. Or, I'm sorry, to show people that terrorist strikes could happen anywhere. So according to his arrest report, quote, he stated that he is a patriot and he felt no one was paying attention to what was going on in the world. Sibley felt if he placed the package in a Roswell park, then people would finally get that this type of activity could happen anywhere. Yes, this type of activity can happen anywhere because of you. No, this is hilarious because this guy calls himself, I'm a conservative patriot, man. I'm a Christian. That's what I am. And he's the one planting the pipe bombs. He's like, you see, this here proves about the Islamic terrorists and how they're on their way to bring that Sharia law. You're the one that planted the bomb. You're a Christian, conservative, Republican, so-called patriot. You're proving the opposite of what you think you're proving. Your whole point is, look at these goddamn Islamic terrorists. But what you're really proving is, look at these goddamn right-wing, conservative Christian terrorists. Or you could just say conservative terrorists, because in this case it wasn't Christianity that was the main factor in him doing what he's doing. It's his ideology, first and foremost, is conservatism. Is patriot? I'm a patriot? God, you're so embarrassing. Do you not realize how embarrassing this is for you? This really is the most ironic lesson ever taught ever. He's like, I'll show them that it's the Islamic people we's got to be worrying about here. Oh, now, another aspect to this story, which is, again, ironic. Last year, we covered a story coming out of the same state, Georgia. There was a terrorist attack there. You remember who did that terrorist attack? Sovereign citizens. Sovereign citizens. Right-wing terrorists. Anti-government extremists. You know what they did? A crazy person, a terrorist, drove directly into a Georgia courthouse, slammed into the front of it, got out with guns and explosives, and thankfully there was a guard on duty who popped him off right at the beginning and ended it before it got worse. But he was planning on taking hostages and blowing shit up. A sovereign citizen in Georgia did that in 2014. Last year it happened. I remember covering it on the show. So let me get this straight. In Georgia, you have that example of terrorism. There's been other examples of right-wing terrorism in Georgia. Now we have a third example from you, an example of right-wing terrorism, and your fucking takeaway is, goddamn Muslims, let me tell you. It's just embarrassing because is it a legitimate concern internationally to worry about religious terrorism, fundamentalist Islamic terrorism? Absolutely. Absolutely. No question about it, man. No question about it. But it obviously goes region by region. Are there some regions where that's a bigger concern than in other regions? Yes. So it depends on what country you're in, at what time you're there, and what the political situation is, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, it is a legitimate concern internationally to worry about, you know, if you're in an area right next to where ISIS is marauding, then of course you're concerned about Islamic extremism, Islamic fundamentalist terrorism. But in the United States of America specifically, there's been study after study after study, which has proven, even our own Department of Homeland Security in a study commissioned under George W. Bush found that 56% of attempted terrorist attacks and terrorist attacks in America are done by right-wing extremists, anti-government extremists. 56%. There's more terrorist attacks from neo-Nazis, the KKK, sovereign citizens, Patriot militias, the Phineas movement, and other groups that are right-wing groups or Christian groups than there are from Islamic extremists in America by far! By far! If you don't know that, or you're, ignorant of that, you're still wrong. You're just wrong. Like, I'm trying to get this through, that it doesn't matter if you feel like, oh, Islamic terrorism is the thing we really have to worry about in America. It doesn't matter if you believe that. You are empirically, verifiably, demonstrably wrong. It is untrue. It's untrue. I don't know how else to say it to you. What you've done is you've bought into this media narrative which simply drives ratings, where if a Muslim sneezes at the wrong time, they'll talk about, oh, attempted terrorist attack, Muslim. But when you see a terrorist attack or an attempted terrorist attack from any right-winger or any Christian, it's not even treated as a terrorist attack. We've covered stories where the person told you, I have a Christian ideology, that's why I'm doing this. How did the media report it? A shooting today, a mass shooting today. No, but it's terrorism if the person from the Phineas movement tells you, I am a Christian extremist, I'm trying to push my Christian doctrine through violence, as happened in Texas recently. But the media won't cover it that way. So what you've done is you've just bought into this idea that, well, it's never the Christians that do terrorism, it's never the right-wingers that do terrorism, because I never hear about it, I never see it. So I guess it's always the Muslims, and I'll prove my point by me, a conservative, planting a bomb. That doesn't prove your point. That proves our point, the point we've been making all along.